Hey guys, Jared Lautenschlager here. I want to apologize very quickly. I meant to have this video up before, but I ran into some technical difficulties. I accidentally deleted one of the video files when I went to edit the video and everything that I had recorded, and that screwed everything up. So I just decided to start fresh, and we're going to go ahead and do this again. So hopefully this time will be the last time I'll do this. Because I really want to get to other videos and I don't want to keep, putting this off. I want to go ahead and just power through it, get it done with, and, we'll be good to go. So, this video is a strange case of brain malfunction in the form of two Christian apologists who apparently think that facts are not facts. For whatever reason, they deny that the Iron Age happened or something. I can't even wrap my head around how anybody could think that, but we're gonna listen to what they say. I'm gonna offer some rebuttals, and we're gonna power through it. So without wasting too much more time, let's go ahead and check out their video.
Many scientists describe primitive man living long ago, before the first man, Adam, existed.
What about the Stone Age? This week on Creation Magazine Live.
Okay, so 12 seconds in, and I'm betting that you guys can already see where they're going with this.
Welcome to Creation Magazine Live. My name is Richard Fangrad.
And I'm Calvin Smith.
Our topic this week is, what about the Stone Age? That's our topic. Now, the reason why it's important is because when people hear terms like the Stone Age, etc., it reinforces a timeline that supposedly contradicts the Bible.
And those people that think that would be correct. But I'm still curious as to what you're going to say on this.
A standard description from Wikipedia is, the Stone Age was a broad prehistoric period during which stone was widely used to make implements with a sharp edge, a point, or a percussion surface. The period lasted roughly 3.4 million years and ended between 6000 BCE and 2000 BCE with the advent of metalworking. BCE is the politically correct version of before Christ.
Right.
All of history hinges on Christ, but it's before Common Era, or before Current Era is what BCE stands for.
Okay, good. You know what BCE stands for. I was actually a little worried. I didn't think that you knew what that meant. But no, history does not hinge on Christ. Maybe a lot of Western culture does. I would hesitate to say it hinges on it, but it's definitely influenced by Christianity. But then you also have to look at Eastern culture, which they don't really even talk about Jesus at all. So, sorry, you missed on that one.
Well, this idea of Stone Age or Bronze Age or Iron Age, etc., it's an attempt to describe archaeological data within an evolutionary framework.
Right.
It's basically an evolutionary story about what they call prehistory, but it doesn't really work very well because it's not true.
Ha ha ha! Oh, wait. Oh, you're serious? Oh, well then do tell.
If you read Genesis, you're going to see that from the beginning, people were familiar with hunting, agriculture, nomadic life, cities, music, bronze and iron. And then you can read all about that in Genesis 4:3-4 and 17-22.
And you can also read other books that are frankly much better written than the Bible. Yeah, so the Bible talks about agriculture. Big whoop. Is agriculture in any way an argument against the Iron Age? I'm failing to see how you're going to twist that. I really can't understand how you would think that. That's stupid.
Sure. And that was before the flood. Now, those that built the ark, Noah and his 3 sons and their wives, survived the flood.
That didn't happen.
We're all descendants of those people.
Nope.
And they were capable of a very high standard of culture and technology and development.
Evidence, please. Or are you just going to assert things the entire video without providing any kind of proof to back up your claims? Because if that's the case, you're going to make it a whole lot easier on me making you two look like fools. Not that you need my help.
Yeah, creationists more or less reject the whole secular system of ages, the Stone Age, Bronze Age, etc., and generally try to avoid using these terms, which we consider kind of misleading, because these terms subtly promote the view that man evolved upward from apes to humans, and from cave dwelling to hunter-gatherers to farmers to modern urbanites.
Right, yeah.
With tattoos.
And your problem with that is what? That it contradicts the Bible? Well, I mean, if that's the case, spoiler alert, it is, then maybe it's time to get rid of that and do some better research. And by the way, we are still apes, just so you know. We have DNA testing that will actually prove that.
Yes, we would say that contrary to the evolutionary scenario, people with the so-called primitive lifestyle arrived there because they lost their shared knowledge of culture and technology.
Again, I'm gonna need some evidence. You can't just assert things and then not back them up. It doesn't work like that, dude. You have to provide something tangible for me to check to make sure that you're not lying. And if you don't provide any evidence, then I can just dismiss it without any evidence. That's the door that you're leaving open for me.
They used to have it, now they don't. Some ancient people have been described as primitive because they lived in caves and lacked advanced terminology. But in the aftermath of Babel, many groups that have suffered many of the material hardships and been forced by circumstances to resort to living in caves and using stone tools as they separated from speakers with different languages who may have had that technology.
Dude, the Tower of Babel story is bullshit and you know it. Besides, even if it were true, that doesn't explain all the people that were living in China that already had a language. They were already speaking and writing things down. So this whole thing about, oh, well, God just divided everybody and made them speak different things, that's stupid. Were there any English speakers then? German? I'm guessing that they weren't there. Nobody was talking German back then, or English. They both came from Latin. And Chinese didn't arrive from anything like that. That was a system all their own. And not to mention all the people, or the Aborigines that were living in Australia way before then. So, yeah, I mean, you can't back up that story with anything other than what's written in a dusty old 2,000-year-old book. And by the way, this is how you back up a claim. This is how you bring evidence to something. I have something right here that's going to prove what I just said. Now listen closely. This was published on CNN. I know, fake news. But the actual journal that it's listed in, I have linked in the description. I didn't link CNN's article on it. You can actually go and read the actual paper that was published in the journal Nature back in 2016. So it says, a group of international researchers, including 9 Aboriginal leaders, collected genomic data on 83 Aboriginal Australians and 25 Highland Papuans from Papua New Guinea. The findings indicate their ancestors had diverged from Eurasians 57,000 years ago following a single exodus from Africa around 75,000 years ago.
And as people spread around the globe, you would understand that there would be loss of technology there.
Right. Yes, and Job may be describing such people in Job 30, 3-8. But cave dwellers can still be found today, and with lifestyles that are far from primitive. We'll discuss some of them, particularly the amazing Malabry people, a little later on in the show.
Yes. Now, have you ever wondered where the term Stone Age came from?
I know the answer to this. It's because of the material of tools that they used, right?
It's everywhere. The supposed fact that prehistoric humans used stone tools for over 2 million years before they learned how to find and use metal. Then they began using bronze, and iron came only later.
Yeah. Boom! I got it. Do I get a prize? I feel like I should at least get a cookie.
But as evidence from archaeology, it's not as clear-cut from archaeology as people think.
Well, sure it is. Would you care to explain or expand upon that at all?
Christian Thompson, the man who invented the three-age system, Stone Age, Bronze Age, Iron Age, was actually a coin collector who was appointed the first head of the Danish museum, despite being largely untrained.
Yeah.
The head of a museum made this system up.
His job was to find a classification system that would bring some order to the jumbled human artifacts they had lying around, tools, weapons, ornaments, and so on, piled around his museum. So,
Okay, I feel I need to add some information here because I think you might have missed something. Let me help you out. This was taken from Wikipedia. This says the three-age system in history, archaeology, and physical anthropology is a methodological concept adopted during the 19th century by which artifacts and events of late prehistory and early history could be ordered into a recognizable chronology. It was initially developed by C.J. Thompson of the Royal Museum of Nordic Antiquities, and he used this as a means to classify the museum's collection according to whether the artifacts were made of stone, bronze, or iron. It goes on to say he probably knew of the three-age model of prehistory through the works of Lucretius Vedel Simonsen, Montfaucon, and Mahudel. I butchered the shit out of those names. And decided to sort the material in the collection chronologically.
his successor at the museum, an archaeologist named J.H. Worsay, went looking for evidence of this sequence that he'd come up with at dig sites around Europe, beginning with an excavation of burial sites in Ireland, and of course he found lots of stone, brass, and iron tools.
Okay. Now, it's commonly claimed that Worsay found these artifacts in the three layers proposed by his predecessor, but in fact, if you check his work, he actually said that you can establish nothing from the tools he dug up directly from the peat moss, because in such a peat bog, the iron, bronze, and stone tools are mixed all together.
Right, because he also found tombs containing either bronze, stone, or iron sets of tools. So why did he conclude that these burials occurred in the classic 3-age sequence? Because the sites with stone implements contained actual bodies, whereas the sites with bronze had only ashes, indicating that these people practiced cremation and thus were more obviously more advanced. How that's more advanced, we don't know. But anyway, you know, even this dubious argument is undermined by the fact that the people who had iron tools apparently went back to burying bodies. So how do you determine what's advanced?
Here we go again. Jens Jacob Amundsen Worsay. He was a Danish archaeologist who played a key role in the foundation of scientific archaeology. He gave scientific credibility to the prehistoric 3-age system, Stone Age, Bronze Age, and Iron Age, proposed by his mentor Christian Jurgensen Thompson, C.J. Thompson. Worsay believed that cultural evolution could be measured not by writings, but through detailed study of the geographic and stratigraphic context of artifacts found in sites of early human occupation. In particular, he drew attention to objects found in graves, arguing that those were the articles in current use at the time of the person's death. He used this method to verify and refine Thompson's tripartite classification. This is getting sad, dude. How many times am I going to have to debunk you now?
There's a lot of problems with the classical system of the ages of human history that people have been taught. We'll be back with more in just a minute.
Actually, there is no problem, other than the one that you have with, you know, facts and things. And the slight problem that I have with your giggling sidekick.
Did you know that the Earth's magnetic field has reversed direction or flipped multiple times in the past? The evidence for these reversals is rock solid because when molten rock cools, certain mineral grains align with the Earth's magnetic field, thus recording the direction of the Earth's magnetic field at the time in the solidified rock. Previously, most geologists thought that a single reversal would take many thousands of years. However, creation physicist Dr. Russell Humphreys reasoned they must have happened quickly to fit within the biblical timescale. So Dr. Humphreys made a prediction that quickly cooling thin lava flows would be found that recorded fast changes in the direction of the magnetic field. This prediction was later proven correct. Scientists were shocked to find major magnetic field changes had occurred within weeks in a single lava flow. They published this in the regular scientific literature. Thus, yet another scientific prediction, based on biblical history, proved to be correct.
To find out more from Creation Ministries International, visit our website, creation.com.
What the hell was that? How did that have anything to do with the Iron Age? Why do you just like drop this little video in there as like a little commercial or something? Can't you have something relevant to the discussion here? I don't get what that's supposed to be. But you did bring up something interesting, and I actually went and fact-checked your stuff, talking about the Earth's magnetic shifts and everything, because you seem to think that that discredits an old Earth. But I have something here that might not be what you want to hear, but this is very important, and I want people in your audience, as well as mine, to understand that you guys are lying and you're stretching the truth. Again, pay attention. This is an excerpt from pseudoastro.wordpress.com. I skipped to the good part, but the entire article is going to be linked in the description. It says, Dr. Humphreys also proposed a test for his model. Magnetic reversals should be found in rocks known to have cooled in days or weeks. For example, in a thin lava flow, the outside would cool first and record Earth's magnetic field in one direction. The inside would cool later and record the field in another direction. The article then claims that two researchers, Robert Coe and Michael Prévost, found just such examples where lava that must have been cooled within 15 days had a full reversal within the layer. Quote, 3 years after this prediction, leading researchers Robert Coe and Michael Prévost found a thin lava layer that must have cooled within 15 days and had 90 degrees of reversal recorded continuously in it. Their work was done in 1989 and actually published in a reputable journal, which is true. You can go and check it out if you would like to. With the wonders of the internet and people posting their papers on their personal websites, you can view it for yourself. If you're a close reader, you can quickly see that the Creation.com article does misstate their research. Interesting. For their paper clearly states they found evidence of a change of 3 degrees per day, which means it would be 60 days for a full 180 degree flip. This guy says that he actually contacted Dr. Coe, who is a faculty member at UC Santa Cruz in the Earth and Planetary Sciences Department. He explained the situation and asked him for his side of the story. And this is Dr. Coe's response. Quote, in both our papers proposing a rapid field change hypothesis, it was for episodes during a reversal. We explicitly stated that there was no evidence suggesting that the reversal occurred in less than the several thousand years duration typical for polarity changes. Wow. We have recently been working more on that same reversal, and our paper should be published this month. Jarboe et al., Geophysical Journal International. In it, we show that the second directional jump is almost certainly due to a temporal gap in the lava flow succession rate rather than rapid field motion. I wish you well in your campaign against creationism. How many debunks is that now? I've lost count.
Welcome back. If you just tuned in this week, we're talking about what about the Stone Age?
Yes. Now, because of problems found with the Danish coin collector system of classification regarding human history.
No. Again, there is no problem.
Modern archaeologists now acknowledge that the Stone, Bronze, Iron Age system isn't very helpful outside of Europe, and looking at it closely, one would wonder if it's valid anywhere.
Yeah, well, more valid than your holy book, that's for sure.
It appears to be mostly just another instance of dogma about human progress and evolution that's been imposed on the evidence, and we see this all the time.
Dude, nothing is being imposed on anyone. Scientists look at evidence and build predictable models based upon that evidence. That's just how it works. We don't start with a conclusion, and I know that you do. But scientists do not do that. Scientists look at the evidence, and then wherever the evidence leads, that is where they get their conclusion from. And I'm sorry if this makes you upset or angry or sad or whatever, but, you know, it's the truth. I fail to see how that is in any way an argument.
Yeah, and it's not like anthropology isn't, you know, an incredibly important field of study. It is for our understanding of man, and of course it has consequences on issues like the value of human life, government, law, ethics, etc. And of course, as it's a topic about history, it relates directly to the creation-evolution debate, because while there have been sequences of technological innovation over time, according to the Bible, all of the basics were well advanced long before Noah's flood in the days of Tubal-Cain, who forged all kinds of tools out of bronze and iron. And, of course, this is versus the evolutionary story of primitive, prehistoric, ape-like, humans developing bigger brains and getting their advancing technology along with that.
Right.
Well, the difference in those two views is that one is true evolution, and the other is just complete fiction. Religion.
As a matter of fact, the terms creationist and prehistory don't go well together anyway. In some ways, there's no such thing as prehistory because the Bible is a historical record that goes right back to the beginning of creation.
Nope. Try again.
Now, on the other hand, there have been particular places and periods, for example, where that term prehistory might apply, like Australia, for example, before the Europeans came, when historical events weren't recorded in writing.
But the key thing to realize is that the whole of science operates within a paradigm.
Right.
And the paradigm is basically held together with a story about how everything came to be. And that story is essentially assumed to be true. And, for the naturalistic paradigm, the story begins with the Big Bang. Then you've got astronomical evolution, the formation of the Earth 4.6 billion years ago, geological evolution, chemical evolution, biological evolution, human evolution, and of course you've got cultural evolution, and here we are.
Yeah.
Worst explanation of evolution ever. And besides, the theory of evolution does not talk about the origin of the universe. That is the Big Bang Theory. It also doesn't talk about the origin of life. That is called abiogenesis. They're three different things. How do you not get that? All evolution says is that species change over time. That's it. That's all it says. It has nothing to do with starting life or starting a universe or anything like that. No.
That's basically the paradigm. A paradigm is a big idea, a concept. Mm-hmm. All the scientific evidence is interpreted within that view. The paradigm isn't proven, it's merely assumed. Important note.
Look, I hate to keep stopping you here, but you make so many ridiculous claims, it's hard to keep up with them, and you're not backing them up with anything. Evolution is not assumed to be true, it is true. You can deny shit all you want, but that doesn't make it false.
Mm-hmm. It's like a huge network of ropes and wires with thousands of people working on it and people kind of adding new wires and removing old ones and lengthening some and tightening others and shortening them and so on. Each researcher works on just their individual bit of the whole network, and what they do is constrained to some extent by what everybody else is doing.
No.
Right, exactly. What people need to realize is, of course, there are other ways of looking at the same evidence. This is what we talk about all the time on this show. The biblical paradigm is held together with the history recorded in the Bible.
But that history is wrong. We know there was no worldwide flood. There was no exodus out of Egypt. No talking snake. Nothing. None of it is true.
So from the chronogenealogies and of course other data in the Bible, we can build a framework of world history, starting with creation in 6 days, about 6,000 years ago, followed by the fall, pre-flood civilization, the global flood about 4,500 years ago, the Tower of Babel after that, the post-flood dispersion, and of course other post-flood history.
And what evidence do you have to support that assertion? Nothing? All right, then.
Yeah, creationist scientists assume that the biblical paradigm, they assume that as their way of understanding the evidence, assuming this history is accurate. Reliable historical records are indispensable to working out the accurate timelines of history, and the Bible is a supremely reliable historical record. Again, in some ways, there's no such thing as prehistory because the Bible is a historical record that goes right back to creation.
Absolutely.
Oh, no, it isn't. Dude, you're wasting so much time talking about everything but the topic. Can we get back to the Iron Age, please?
Okay, so let's switch gears here a little bit and talk about a specific example. Isolated hunter-gatherer tribes are often viewed in the West as being primitive or pre-agriculture,
right.
Not yet fully evolved, relics of the Stone Age. So such people are frequently dubbed the people that time forgot. Of course, that's a concept popularized by Edgar Rice Burroughs' classic 1924 novel, or of course you've got the 1977 Hollywood movie version, the comic book adaptation, all that stuff.
However, faced with intriguing new evidence, anthropologists are having to completely rethink the primitive worlds, people lost in time stereotype. The Malabry people, when we get back.
God damn it. Okay, I'll be here.
Are you skeptical about Christianity? Perhaps you're a Christian but know someone who won't consider Christianity. Christianity for Skeptics is one of CMI's most popular books. Written by Drs. Steve Kumar and Jonathan Sarfati, this powerful resource refutes many attacks on the Christian faith. It contains cutting-edge research, solid theology, and a summary of the Christian roots of science. Questions about Islam, atheism, suffering, evidence for God, and more are answered. Full of bright, catchy illustrations and a sleek modern style, this book draws in any reader. Purchase this resource and many others at creation.com.
I am not going to waste my money on that shit. If somebody wants to buy that and send it to me, go right ahead, but I'm not going to spend my money on it.
On this week's episode, we're talking about what about the Stone Age? That's our topic.
Right.
And so far you have yet to deliver. But maybe you'll turn things around. Maybe. They're not going to turn things around, are they?
Now, ranging through mountain forests across parts of northern Thailand and western Laos, the Malabry people were first discovered by Europeans in 1936. They had no agriculture. Instead, they hunted and foraged for wild food in the jungle. The region only... they're the region's only hunter-gatherers, actually. Now, the Malabry lived as forest nomads, moving frequently and rarely showing themselves to outsiders. That's why they weren't discovered for quite a while.
Yes, however, the Thai people knew of their existence, calling them the Phao Thong Luang people. The people of the yellow leaves is what it means. This is because they would abandon their temporary bamboo stick dwellings thatched with banana leaves after a week or so when the leaves turned yellow. That's how they got that name. Their enigmatic lifestyle caused anthropologists to conclude that the Malabry had descended through the ages unchanged, perpetuating a culture that predates agriculture, as some of the quotes suggest. In short, scientists considered that the Malabry people were relics of the Stone Age. That's how they were described.
Yeah, but one of the neighboring hill tribes, the Tin Prey, an agricultural people, tell a very different account of the Malabry origins.
Yes.
The Tin Prey have a story passed down from generation to generation to explain the origin of their secretive hunter-gatherer neighbors. Several hundred years ago, they say, the Tin Prey, they banished 2 of their young children from their farming community, sending them downriver on a raft. The children, a boy and a girl, survived and escaped into the jungle. They kept themselves alive by gathering the fruit of the forest and hunting what they could, and in time had offspring of their own. And thus the banished boy and girl, according to the Tin Prey, became the founders of the Malabry tribe.
Okay, but this account was labeled by others as a tribal myth. It simply didn't fit with the recognized evolutionary progression for the development of human cultures. That is, the hunter-gatherer predates farming and not the other way around.
Right.
The Malabry today consist of around 300 people. They're considered a vulnerable people with threatened lifestyle and language. Much of the original ranging land has been lost to logging and encroaching farms. Forbidden by their own custom to own land, many Malabri now kind of eke out existence as laborers working for the neighboring agricultural hill tribes there.
Now, an international team of anthropologists hoping to uncover clues to evolutionary origins set out to compare the genetic diversity of the Malabri with that of 6 agricultural hill tribes. The results were remarkable, as Science Now reported. Astonishingly, all of the Malabri mitochondrial DNA turned out to be identical, a total lack of variation that hasn't been found in any other human population. So similarly, the Malabri Y chromosome and autosome genetic diversity was also extraordinarily reduced. That's the way they described it.
The implication? Because the Malabri are genetically nearly identical, they must have come from a very limited gene pool. In fact, researchers conclude that the Malabri population descends from just one female and just one to 4 males, something like that, who lived about 500 to 800 years ago. And because of the similarities in genetic makeup between the Malabri and the agricultural hill tribes, the researchers conclude that the most probable explanation for the origin of the Malabri is an extreme founder event from an agricultural group followed by adoption of a hunter-gatherer lifestyle, and that the neighboring agricultural group was, quote, at least closely related to the present-day tin prey.
Yes, and in addition, linguistic studies have shown that the Malabri language is related to that of the tin prey, probably diverging a few hundred years ago. Thus, the tin prey's strange tale, as one news report dubbed it, turns out to fit the facts. It would have been better regarded as a handed-down eyewitness account. The Malabri were not a pre-agricultural people that time forgot. Rather, faced with having to survive in the jungle and cut off from access to crop seed resources and community support networks, they were people who forgot the know-how needed to farm and a whole lot of other things that their ancestors had known, making clothes, sturdy dwellings, social laws, etc.
Okay, and what does that prove? That people are farmers and these people are hunter-gatherers. So what? I don't get how that defeats the Iron Age. What are you trying to say with that? You do know that they have to use iron tools to do the work. Just because they live in a backwards-ass place of the world and their technology is not advanced like ours does not mean that the Iron Age did not happen. Look, this is from the exact same place where you got your information, and I'm going to show you something that actually kind of contradicts what you just said. Quote, the authors make a compelling case, says Diane Guilford Gonzalez, an anthropologist at the University of California, Santa Cruz, and an expert on the origins of farming. Such a transition from farming to foraging for wild foods may have been done or attempted many times since the origins of farming, she says. So, she doesn't say that the Iron Age didn't happen. That doesn't agree with anything that you said. This just sheds light on, oh, well, that does happen from time to time. But so what? They just went backwards.
Yes, and given the young ages of their founders, this lack of handed down wisdom from their elders is understandable. The tin prey say it also explains why the Malabri are so childish and why they speak so slowly. But more on this amazing case when we get back.
You're really going to waste more time on this tribe in Southeast Asia? Really? What more can you say about them? There's nothing left for you to say. I can't imagine anything that you can bring now from this example that is going to help you in any way.
Goosebumps form when our skin gets cold. According to some evolutionists, we develop these bumps on our skin at the base of body hairs because we are supposedly related to hairy ancestors for which they served a purpose. Since humans have minimal hair, they often dismiss goosebumps as a non-functional relic of our supposed evolutionary past. However, human goosebumps are not useless. Even with the small amount of hair we have, when it stands on end, it helps to conserve body heat by trapping more air. Also, the muscles associated associated with goosebumps help squeeze oil onto the skin, and the hairs help prevent the oil glands from becoming clogged. Moreover, the muscle contractions generate heat, of which more can be generated by shivering. Goosebumps, therefore, do not necessarily support the idea we are related to hairy animals, but they do provide evidence for a common designer using the goosebump concept in many different creatures.
To find out more from Creation Ministries International, visit our website, creation.com.
Okay, so it's pretty clear to me now that there's no way I'm getting any information from you guys that's going to be worth anything. So what I did is I went and researched Goosebumps myself, and let me just share what I found from a much more reputable site. Though goosebumps are a reflex rather than a permanent anatomical structure, they are widely considered to be vestigial in humans. The pilomotor reflex, to give them one of their technical names, occurs when the tiny muscle at the base of a hair follicle contracts, pulling the hair upright. In birds or mammals with feathers, fur, or spines, this creates a layer of insulating warm air in a cold snap, or a reason for a predator to think twice before attacking. But human hair is so puny that it is incapable of either of these functions. Interesting. So it goes on to say goosebumps in humans may, however, have taken a minor new role, like flushing, another thermoregulatory mechanism. They have become linked with emotional responses, notably fear, rage, or the pleasure, say, of listening to beautiful music. This could serve as a signal to others. It may also heighten emotional reactions. There is some evidence, for instance, that a music-induced frisson causes changes of activity in the brain that are associated with pleasure. And there you go.
Our subject this week is, what about the Stone Age? Now, we were just discussing the amazing Malabry tribe that some researchers thought were, some kind of people that time forgot.
Yes.
Descended from the Stone Age.
Yeah, nobody thinks that. That's ridiculous.
Now, in light of their findings about the Malabry, the researchers warned that contemporary hunter-gatherer groups cannot be automatically assumed to represent the pre-agricultural lifestyle of human populations descended unchanged from the Stone Age.
Oh, well, thanks for proving my point.
So they point to other hunter-gatherer groups too, known to have descended from agricultural people. For example, the Polynesian hunter-gatherers on the Chatham Islands and in the South Island of New Zealand, who abandoned agriculture and adopted a maritime-based foraging subsistence.
Right. Of course, this doesn't mean that the researchers have abandoned evolutionary theories.
No.
They still hold that there was a pre-agricultural Stone Age and speak of such examples as, cultural reversion. But when asked, they'd be pretty hard-pressed to provide definitive evidence that people started out as Stone Age hunter-gatherers.
Actually, we have tons and tons and tons of information. I would like to know where you're getting your information from that it didn't happen. But of course, you never share it. I'm expecting too much of you, again.
With agriculture evolving later, just as with the Malabry, the indications from genetic, linguistic, and folkloric evidence pertaining to other hunter-gatherers peoples point strongly to their being related to agricultural peoples, but having suffered cultural devolution, not evolution.
It's going backwards, yeah. Folks, there never was a Stone Age, except in the minds of those who presuppose an evolutionary history.
Citation needed. What did I tell you about baseless assertions? You actually have to do something to back them up. Okay? You can't just, say whatever you want to and then not back it up. It doesn't quite work like that.
The only way to definitively know what happened in the past is to have a reliable eyewitness testimony.
No. Let me give you an example to show you how this works as far as us being able to observe the past and then kind of analyze how things happened based on the evidence that we have now. So, to use the forensic example, and this is a great example. A lot of people have used this, and I love this one. Let's say that you go to a crime scene. There's a dead body on the ground. There is a pool of blood around his head. He's got a gunshot wound to it. And the murder weapon is lying about, I'd say, 20 feet away from him. Can you conclude that he shot himself? The bullet hole is on the side of his head. He could have easily pulled the trigger like that, couldn't he? But why would he pull the trigger and then toss the gun 20 feet away? If he really did shoot himself, he would drop the gun right there at his feet. Right? So we can conclude from this evidence that he was shot by someone else that was standing a distance away from him and then dropped the gun. And we can also determine different things like how far the guy would have had to been away to create a certain type of a hole in his head. We can determine what bullet he used. We see the gun on the ground, so we know what kind of weapon he used. All sorts of different things. You don't have to be there to witness things to know if they happened a certain way or not.
And the Bible is exactly that. Going back to the very beginning of time, from the Creator himself, in 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 3 to 7, the Bible warns us that in the last days, scoffers will come, scoffing and following their own evil desires. It goes on to say, they deliberately forget that long ago, by God's word, the heavens existed and the earth was formed out of water, and by these waters also the world of that time was deluged and destroyed.
Formed out of water and by water? What? Isn't that kind of redundant? That doesn't even really make much sense. And also, how can you verify this? Were you there, to use your example that you guys keep throwing out? Were you there? Were you there to witness it being formed? No. So all that you have to go on that is a book, because there's no evidence that supports anything that is claimed in the Bible.
Yes, because evolutionists forget about the global flood.
Because there never was one, you dense idiot.
Recorded in Genesis 6 to 9, about 4,500 years ago. They think that sedimentary rock layers represent millions of years. And because they forget that the whole creation is only about 6,000 years old and that the first man tended a garden and planted crops of the field, they say that hunter-gathering preceded agriculture.
So how do you determine how old the earth is? Where do you get that number from? Let me guess. Your ass.
Because they forget what happened at the time of Adam, then Noah, and later the dispersion from Babel.
Yeah.
They falter in trying to explain death, suffering, fossils, and the origins of languages and cultures like the Malabry.
Yeah, even more seriously, because they forget that the first man and woman were made in the image of God, that all people are descended from them and have been intelligent from the very beginning.
Well, some of us are intelligent. This person.
They've replaced the true history of man, of people, with a story that implies some people are less evolved, making them less human than others, and that fuels racism.
Oh, look. Another assertion pulled right out of your rectum. Evolution does not say anything about racism. How many times does this have to be explained to you guys? It does not say that. But I'll give you some information. The Bible was used to justify slavery in the United States. Now, which one's more racist?
Some people aren't as human as others.
Yeah. And even when, an overt racism isn't manifested, nevertheless, the replacing of the Bible's timeline with the evolutionary timeline, that can hit people pretty hard, in a hurtful and deliberating sense. For example, many Aboriginal people in Australia have accepted evolution as truth, and that, they're at least 40,000 years, they've been living the Stone Age of existence, and so by implication that they're more primitive, less evolved than the rest of the population.
Right.
More primitive, sure. But less evolved? No. And boo-hoo, evolution hurts my feelings. Who cares, dude? Look, the truth is sometimes hard to swallow, but that doesn't mean it's not true.
Yeah, and those destructive notions can be overcome by proclaiming the truth about origins. Christian preachers visiting Aboriginal communities have reported seeing tears of joy resulting in the realization among these folks that we're all of one race, as the Bible says.
Yep.
All descended from Adam and Eve and later Noah after the flood, obviously, and thus all equally made in the image of God, our Creator.
Yeah,
Well, and evolution says that we're the same species as well. Big whoop.
in short, they've forgotten.
Yeah.
And many
2
people,
Peter 3.
Yeah, in the Christian West too, are in danger of forgetting. Giving this the widespread parading of the evolutionary timeline as fact through the media, schools, universities.
It's everywhere.
And at the same time, of course, children's exposure to biblical teaching is diminishing.
Right. Yeah. We would do well to remember the Bible's emphasis on passing on the knowledge of God's Word, which includes the correct history of time.
So how would you reconcile with other religions that say that you're wrong? How do you know that you have the right version? I really want to know how you can justify that you have the correct religion, but the Hindus and the Buddhists and the Muslims and everybody else has the wrong religion. What makes yours so different? What evidence do you have that the other ones don't have?
To the next generation, our children, obviously, so that they can in turn pass it on to their children, and so on, lest we and they forget. In summary, the idea of different ages like the Stone Age is a man-made historical classification system developed under evolutionary presuppositions that's been shown to be incorrect in many areas of science.
Name one. Seriously, just name one.
The Bible has the true history of mankind within it.
And we'll be back with our In the News segment next.
Creation.com is the world's most powerful internet resource for finding answers to questions about the origins debate. It includes an online store where you can browse through hundreds of the world's leading creationist books, DVDs, and related materials. Scientists and researchers from around the world have contributed more than 8,000 articles, many of which have appeared in leading creationist publications over more than 30 years. Creation or evolution? When the results are in, which one is supported by scientific observations? Find out at creation.com.
Oh, well, that's easy. Evolution.
Well, welcome back. This is the In the News segment, and I don't think since we've had that great article about how our face shape evolved because of getting punched in the face. Remember that really cool news article?
Yeah, I'd like to punch you in the face.
We've never had quite as interesting a topic here. This was from the National Post recently. They had a news article called "The Shape of the Future: Is Obesity a Crisis or Just the Latest Stage of Evolution?"
Okay, and the article, we'll try to get through this here. As early as April, new obesity treatment could be approved in the U.S. and soon after in Canada. This is from the National Post in Canada, that allows users to aspirate or drain 30% of the food they eat from their stomachs before their bodies can absorb the calories. Hey! The procedure involves implanting a skinny tube in the upper part of the stomach and connecting it to a loonie-sized port on the outside of the abdomen. After meals, a small device is attached to the port's valve. The valve is rotated open, and some of the gut's contents can be emptied into a toilet. The device's makers claim it's a low-risk, minimally invasive, and totally reversible way to lose weight. Although it sounds specific.
Oh, let's slow down. Just take your time. Let me help you out. Suspiciously. Are you okay? Do you got it? You need me to get you a glass of water?
Suspicious, I'll get it. Suspiciously like engineered bulimia, but then our hunger for something, anything to make us thinner, knows no bounds. That's how the article begins.
Yeah, which is pretty disgusting, actually. Let's just face that.
It's pretty disgusting.
Yeah.
But, okay.
I mean, the rest of the article, the whole premise of the article is they're trying to make a connection between the theory of evolution and the fact that some people are rather rotund. Now, of course, we would acknowledge the fact that there are medical conditions that obviously, cause people to be, to keep on weight and stuff like that. But of course, trying to link the theory of evolution, this is the next stage in evolution, to the fact that some people are obese is rather ridiculous. I mean, is it only North Americans that are evolving, or is this, how
Right.
come the Europeans don't seem to be evolving in the same shape as
So
the
I guess
North
in
Americans?
cultures that are staying thinner and not seeing the obesity epidemic, they're not evolving very quickly then, are
Well,
they?
Yeah, they're not saying that. They're not even implying that that is literally what's going to happen. They're speculating. Do you know what speculation is? No, you probably don't know what that is. So let me break this down for you. The United States, if you were not aware, is the most obese country in the entire world, with the most fat people of anybody. Most of them are in Hawaii, but still. Out of the entire world, the United States' obesity rate is by far the highest. So, based on that statistic, wouldn't it be logical to conclude that could very well be where the United States would be headed? The country full of fat people. Because we are fat. There's no denying it. You can't get around the fact that we are an obese nation. We got a McDonald's on fucking every corner. Right next to a Burger King and a Wendy's. And a Hardee's. And all these other fast food joints. There's a reason why we're fat. But to your point about why aren't Europeans evolving the same way, it could be because they have a different diet. And they live their lives a lot differently than the United States does? Seriously, what planet are you guys from? How are these questions that you're asking? I just thought of that off the top of my fucking head. Seriously, it's not hard.
Throughout this article, there are some very interesting pictures. And the whole creation evolution debate is portrayed throughout. For example, there's one picture here, and it's got Adam and Eve in the garden, the tree, right? The serpent, and they're eating the fruit. But they're not just eating one piece of fruit. Look at all the pieces of fruit they've eaten.
Oh, yeah.
That's why they're so large, right? So Adam and Eve.
Interesting how they're talking about evolution, but they bring in the biblical account.
Back to the biblical account.
Really? Do you not get that either? That's just a drawing, dude. Chill.
And then there's the picture of, Michelangelo's God reaching out to man, that
creation
famous
of Adam,
creation of Adam. And of course, Adam's quite large in this picture. Well, here's an interesting one. It's the classic ape to man series. Okay, so you've got your ape-like creature there, and then you've got your darker kind of ape man kind of thing. And he's pretty thin, right? Yeah. And then you've got your Caucasian, skinny
thin white guy.
Caucasian, and then you turn into a fat Caucasian.
Wow.
So
we've mentioned this before, like the classic that's in all of your textbooks, the classic ape to human sequence. What's the shade of the skin in the people? Have you noticed that?
It's always the dark-skinned hairy apes.
Wow. So
turning
evolution is saying that black people are less evolved than white people.
Right.
Except that's just an artist rendition. That is in no way supported by evolution. And I love your little comment about, oh, well, it's the darker one going into a Caucasian one. You do realize that evolution is non-linear, right? It does not follow a straight line. It looks more like this. Do you see how there are branches and things that separate from each other? It's not just like the ape sitting there and then he gets bigger and bigger and then he can walk and shit. No, that one is not accurate. Legitimate scientists that study evolution and biologists do not use that model all the time. They rarely use it, from my understanding, because it's not a viable model to show how evolution happens. That's just something that someone came up with to simplify it. That's not the actual version that they use. Good grief, you two guys are idiots. Why do I have to keep explaining to you guys what evolution is?
How is that even allowed in textbooks in our politically correct climate? That's ridiculous.
And the person who drew this picture has obviously absorbed that concept into their head, because now the next stage is the fat white guy. Amazing. Next week on Creation Magazine Live, flood legends and who knows what in the news section. See you then.
Oh, finally it's over. Whew, man, I tell you, that was painful. And I love this little thing that they pull up at the very end where they're kind of teasing like the flood myths and shit. I'm not going to touch that one. I will defer to the video that Logic did against John Morris Pendleton. You know, the chemist, scientist, auto mechanic, mid-husband, whatever the fuck that means. He did a fantastic job on those videos. I thoroughly enjoyed watching them. So I'll actually defer to him as far as that goes. And I'll link that video down below so you guys can go watch it. But the next video that I'm going to do from these two guys, they want to talk about evolution as being a pseudoscience. And that video could possibly turn out to be more painful than this one. But hopefully they'll actually stay on topic. Because this whole time, I mean, I was very disappointed that they talked about everything but the Iron Age. They had nothing to refute that at all. Like, do these guys not realize that you have to actually make the tools to do agriculture? So how does agriculture disprove anything about the Iron Age? They had to develop the tools first before they used them. And they were talking about, oh, well, in the Bible, it mentions agriculture. Well, fuck me, you know? Come on. Anyway, that is all for me for now. If you guys liked the video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, and make sure you click the little bell icon so you get all the alerts to new videos that come out. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter if you would like to. Comment down below. You know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this. If you have any more information to add to it, I'd love to see it and read it and hear it and everything. One extra thing here, though, is there will be an extra link in the description that I'll put near the top so you can find it easy. But it talks about chimpanzees on 3 separate continents. Now, this is 3 separate continents. The chimpanzees have been using their own handmade tools. I shit you not. There is actually 3 scientists that have actually confirmed this. That did separate studies and everything. They're a little bit more crude than the ones that our ancestors made. But they're still tools nonetheless. And that is very interesting. But that link will be down below if you guys want to check that out too. So you can kind of read up on that. It's very interesting information. Okay, that's it. I'm the Super Science Bro. I'll see you guys next time.